I remember one time sitting outside the grocery store when my husband ran in, and I remember watching people just walk into the store. I'll never forget that moment. I was sitting there in the passenger side of the car, just watching people walk into the store. And I thought, wow, if I can get my walking back, I am never going to take that for granted again. How simple it is to just walk into a store, because that simple thing had effectively been taken from me. We have a lot more power than we realize. I can do a lot to strengthen my immune system, to make my body strong, durable, healthy, and happy. And I don't have to just say, well, it's just age, or, well, that's just the disease I have, or I just have to stay on that drug, or I just have to deal. No, you don't have to put up with it. There are options for improving your health. And the biggest surprise to me was just how simple these things are. Welcome back to the Sunshine Cafe, where we pour positive back into your day, sharing stories from real people who have made it through some real struggles, but were able to restore their health, hope, and peace. I'm Lisa Roers, your host, and as a certified coach, I'm here to guide you to be your best self-advocate, to help you restore your health, ignite your faith, and conquer those fears while you navigate your own healing journey so you can eventually exchange your dis-ease for durability. If you're looking for hope and encouragement to live a life you love, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Sunshine Cafe. Today, I'm introducing a short mini-series of episodes that I know is going to be especially encouraging for you. I'm going to share with you the break-free pathway from feeling frustration and discouragement, pain and despair, to feeling more healthy, durable, free, and faith-filled once again. Let me ask you this. Are you out there feeling stuck? Are you finding yourself running around on that crazy hamster wheel of life, just watching your weight go up and down and maybe up and up and up again, then maybe down? Are you dealing with a medication or some pharmaceutical that has left you with side effects that you cannot shake? Or have you been on the receiving side of a diagnosis that has left you frustrated and fearful, and you're just not sure even what to do next? Or maybe you're one of those who is feeling like your faith is a little flat. You know in your heart that God is speaking, but you're kind of wondering if maybe he accidentally hit that mute button. He doesn't realize that you can't hear him. Well, if any of those questions rang true for you, you are not alone, my friend, because that is exactly where I was. So today, I'm introducing a short mini-series of episodes for you, and we're going to dive into some of these topics. And I'm going to share with you the specific things I learned over the past many years, which helped me break free. And I want to share these with you because I want you to break free too. I want you to realize those healthy breakthroughs and reignite your faith so you can live with intention, without fear, walking closely with the Lord and in a way that gives you the peace that surpasses all understanding and allows you to live life and live it to the full, just like Jesus said in John 10:10. Okay, so to start, I'm going to back up a little bit and give you some context to really how my story started and how or why I needed to break free. I'm going to try to include enough detail where you can relate to the story and understand why it was so all-encompassing for me. But I also want you to know that this is an abridged version, and there are so many more details that I can't put into this episode or we'd be here all day long. So I'm going to try to give you the short version, just enough for you to see why I needed to break free. But in the coming weeks, I'm going to be unpacking the steps that I took to break free, so you can do the very same thing. So let's dive in. The last 8 or so years have completely rocked my world. And trust me, not always in good ways. But I do think it's turned out good in the end. But one thing for sure is these last few years have changed my life forever. You know how when you get married or you have a baby and how your entire life takes on a new focus? You enter into a different season of your life. And from that moment on, you can't go back. You are completely changed. You're taking on a new identity, from being single to a spouse, or from being man and wife to being mom and dad. Well, I experienced that kind of identity changing event, and it has forever changed me. And it will forever change everything about my future. It effectively changed my job, how I interact with my family, my day-to-day life, and certainly my faith. In February of 2017, I woke up to the most horrible pain I had never experienced. And in the moment, I just thought that I had slept wrong. But a couple of short weeks later, I realized something much more serious was going on. This wasn't just one night of bad sleep. In hindsight, I realized and learned it was an autoimmune disease. This autoimmune disease progressed over those coming weeks until eventually I was in so much pain I couldn't walk. I had so much inflammation in my knees and my hips that I couldn't bend them. It hurt to sit. It hurt to stand. It hurt to turn over in bed. And frankly, just getting to bed was a process in its own right because our bedroom is up a flight of stairs. So each night to get there, I would bear crawl up the stairs. And then in the morning, I would sit down at the top of the steps and one step at a time slide down. This autoimmune disease showed up out of nowhere. I was completely blindsided. I was fine on a Tuesday, and I woke up on Wednesday and couldn't move. And I can hardly put into words just how frustrating it was to see doctor after doctor after doctor with no answers and no solutions, no suggestions, no try this or try that. All the conversations were about treating the pain, which frankly I was very happy about because in the moment I was feeling a lot of pain. But none of the conversations were helping me understand where this whatever it was came from and why my body was attacking itself. I remember one time sitting outside the grocery store when my husband ran in, and I remember watching people just walk into the store. I'll never forget that moment. I was sitting there in the passenger side of the car, just watching people walk into the store, and I thought, wow, if I can get my walking back, I am never going to take that for granted again. How simple it is to just walk into a store, because that simple thing had effectively been taken from me. In the course of those first 3 or 4 years of this disease, I saw 26 different doctors across 8 unique medical specialties, including chiropractic and internal medicine and infectious diseases, dentistry, rheumatology, functional medicine, and more. I even spent 3 days at the famed Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, where I enjoyed 18 different appointments over 3 days on the coldest winter week Minnesota has had in decades. It was, I think, like negative 34 degrees with a feels like temp of negative 52. That's negative 46 in Celsius. Brr, that was cold. Actually, my car almost didn't start one of the mornings. It was crazy, crazy cold. Well, after enduring countless tests and biopsies and too many blood tests to count, and a medical bill, frankly, that was shocking, I was still left with no answers, and they sent me on my way. Everybody could confirm that something was wrong because all of my inflammation markers were off the charts, but nobody knew why. And none of the doctors that I saw gave me a suggestion of what to do about it other than take steroids. So to shut down my immune system, my internal medicine doctor gave me steroids, some strong ones. And I don't blame him, I guess, because neither of us knew what was going on. And the inflammation was so severe that he feared the possibility of permanent damage. The closest guess of a diagnosis that he could give me was perhaps this was some kind of vasculitis. So, of course, I went home directly and started Googling vasculitis to continue my research. And by the way, Google has very scary things to say about that particular disease, so I do not recommend that you go out and research it yourself unless you are prepared to deal with some very dire news related to what is said about it. Anyway, the doctor gave me a prescription for steroids to shut everything down and sent me on my way with no real concrete answers. Over the next 6 years, while taking those steroids, I managed to add an extra 50 pounds to my 5'6" frame. And if that wasn't enough to hit my self-confidence in a huge way, I also acquired steroid-induced cataracts in both eyes. I didn't even know that was possible. Of course, it was probably written in the 0.3 font somewhere in that about this drug document that comes with every prescription, but I didn't read that. Through my research, I was learning a lot, but from the medical community, I still had no real answers. I was told that I would need to stay on steroids indefinitely to keep my immune system from tearing my body apart. But after learning more about the side effects of steroids, including cataracts, staying on steroids was not an acceptable answer to me. After all, my body was not in major pain and unable to move because I had some deficiency of prednisone or a low-level reading of dexamethasone in my system. No, something else was going on, and I was determined to find out what it was. It seemed logical to me that if my immune system was going haywire, then perhaps there would be a way to start over, to rebuild my immune system from the bottom up. So I dove deeper and deeper into my research to try to learn what was causing my body to turn on itself like this. And little by little, I learned more about these amazing bodies God made us, our foods and the toxins in our environment, and all the things that put strain on our immune systems. And what I learned is there wasn't one thing that got me sick. No, there were thousands of things that got me sick. Thousands of things that added up over time, like 1,000 little paper cuts internally, which were overstressing my system. Until finally, on that February morning when I woke up and couldn't move, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. My body had had enough, and finally, it was yelling for help. And with all the pain that I was feeling, trust me, I was an attentive listener. I guess pain can be useful in that way. It will drive anyone, almost anyone, to embrace huge change if it's painful enough. And for me, it was. Among all the research I did, I stumbled upon something called proteolytic enzymes. I researched them, I looked at the stories from people who had taken them, and did a lot of studying on it, and decided to start taking them. Much to my amazement, it was only a couple of weeks before I could walk. I had no pain, a little bit of pain, but not excruciating pain, and that was a pivotal moment for me. I'll never forget it. It was a few weeks after my walking had kind of been restored, and I had a rheumatology appointment, which had been scheduled months before, and I'll never forget that day or the moment. I waited in the waiting room and finally got brought into the room, and I was so excited to tell this doctor about the breakthrough I had had after months and months of not being able to walk. I was so excited to share with him the success I had had with these enzymes. He came into the room and he sat down, we chatted a little bit, and I told him about these proteolytic enzymes. And he looked at me and he said, "What's a proteolytic enzyme?" I realized right then and there that we, in general, the population is so wrong to think that doctors always have every answer. They are only human. They dive deep into their specialties and they're good at it, really good at it. But they certainly cannot know everything about everything. And sadly, most doctorate programs do not focus on nutrition. In fact, from what I've read, most doctors in their doctorate studies only get about 4 to 6 hours of nutritional training. And I had been doing research for weeks, even years at this point. So for me to expect that doctor to have all the answers for me was really wrong and frankly a bit unfair. So that was the day I realized I needed to participate. I had to stop expecting the doctors to tell me what to do. I had to start being my own self-advocate and partner with any future doctors that I saw so we could work together to heal. They brought the medical and pharmaceutical knowledge to the table, and I brought the nutritional and personal history knowledge from my side. And together, we could find solutions that worked. All the things that I learned in my research were so encouraging. My friend, we have a lot more power than we realize. I can do a lot to strengthen my immune system, to make my body strong, durable, healthy, and happy. And I don't have to just say, well, it's just age, or, well, that's just the disease I have, or I just have to stay on that drug. No, you don't have to put up with it. There are options for improving your health. And the biggest surprise to me was just how simple these things are. Well, at least conceptually. Sometimes the way to treat these autoimmune and chronic illnesses seem just too simple for people to really believe. It is ridiculously simple and even logical to understand, but it is oh so remarkably difficult to execute, but not impossible. And with God, this is very doable. Will it be hard? Yes, but it's so doable. And the reason that change is hard, or the reason it was hard for me, is because the bad habits I had developed over the years are really hard to break. But despite how hard it might be to break those habits, making the changes was worth it. Because, at least in my case, I wasn't really even living anymore. It was not any way for a person to live. And because of that, it wasn't worth being stubborn and staying on the path that I was currently on. I had to realize that there was not going to be a silver bullet or one super pill that I could take to heal me. I didn't get sick overnight, and I knew I wouldn't heal overnight. Well, to be honest, I hoped and I prayed that I would, because I know God could do that. But I knew this was going to be a journey. And truly, I think if God had instantly healed me, I never would have learned the lesson that I needed to learn, and I never would have changed the habits that I needed to change. I would have gone right back to my old destructive behavior, and then I'd be right back where I started, all over again, asking God to heal me. So that was the moment it kind of hit me. If I wanted permanent healing, I needed permanent change. And the encouraging thing about all the research that I had done is there were stories all over the place, encouraging stories of people who were healing themselves. So many encouraging stories of people eliminating their dis-ease or disease, their cancer, their lupus, their psoriasis, their Hashimoto, and the list goes on and on and on. And they did it by removing those things that were causing those thousands of little internal paper cuts and adding back into their bodies the things that their bodies needed, the things that they were missing. I wanted that success story. And why not? If they could do it, why not me? And so I did. Step by step, I took action, and I did the things that I needed to remove those thousands of little paper cuts, or at least many of them, that were causing me internal pain, and restored my health. Today, I'm walking, I've lost that steroid weight, and I'm in one of the best places I have ever been in my life. And so, because of that, I want to share this with you. I'm going to start unpacking those changes that I made to restore my health. And these are changes that you or anyone can make too. I'm going to share with you exactly what I did to heal, to lose that steroid weight, to detox from the pharmaceuticals, and to turn our home into a healthy haven where my husband and our son and I live. And we don't just live, we live life to the full. So I hope you'll come back next week and join me for part 2 of this miniseries so you can hear more about how to break free. Thank you for joining me today on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't already and write us a review so we know which episodes you're loving and how to make them even more valuable for you. You have so much more power than you realize, my friend. You can break free. And in the next episode, we're going to dive right into exactly how to start. I hope you'll join me, and I look forward to seeing you next week right back here at the Sunshine Cafe.